do a power steering fluid flush on this 2008 Honda Accord. It's a V6. Got 160,000 miles on it. I changed the power steering fluid about 20,000 miles ago. It was probably the first time it's ever been done. So it's a good thing to do every 40,000, 50,000 miles. People never do it, but it can get dirty. So I'm going to do a full flush and put a Magnefine filter on it and use some Lubegard products. So I took out some of the fluid out of here, and it's pretty dark, so not a bad idea to change it. And I'll show you how to do it here. Okay, here's the power steering reservoir. There's the power steering pump. So we're going to try out this power steering fluid flush. I like Lubegard products. They got great reputation. Basically, pour it in, and it says to run the car and turn the steering back and forth 4 to 5 times. And that gets the flush throughout the whole system, the rack and pinion, steering of course. And so we'll flush it through here, see what the color looks like afterwards. So I think you know what turning the wheel left and right 4 or 5 times looks like. Basically just go lock to lock, and you can do this just right in your garage on concrete or whatever. It's not going to hurt nothing. So you're basically just flushing it through all the system. Okay, I'm going to drain the reservoir of all the fluid so we don't get a big mess when we take off the 2 hoses down there. Well, it's not looking much darker, but it probably did its job. Okay, the top hose here is the return. Fluid's flowing back into the reservoir from the rack and pinion, and it comes out of the reservoir from the bottom hose, comes up here to the pump, and the pump sends it back to the rack and pinion. That's the high pressure line. So you always want to mess with the return line. There's low pressure on the return line. It's the high pressure, after the pump has high pressure hydraulic fittings. So we're gonna take off this hose clamp here. Just popped right off, luckily. Now you're gonna laugh, I got this old funnel, but it's got a stopper on it. It's probably an old beer bong funnel, and that's gonna work good to plug this hose. I'll put a hose clamp on there, and then we'll fill it up and flush new fluid out and eject the old fluid out of this old return line. Okay, so we got a big funnel that can hold some fluid in here for us. Honda power steering fluid. Get it filled up as much as you can, and then got our return line blocked off, and this return line, we got it hooked up. I got a piece of 3/4 inch PEX going into this reservoir, so that's gonna pump the old fluid in there. So I'm gonna start the car and pump the fluid out. Pump the new fluid in. So you can see it turn pretty clear there. And we'll kind of finalize our levels. Okay, we're going to try this Lubegard Power Steering Fluid Protectant with LXE. Basically, you just add it with your regular, ooh, it's purple, with your regular power steering fluid, and let it do its thing. It's got, more wear additives and whatnot, I suppose. So we're just going to fill up our reservoir here. Okay, so I put in a Magnefine inline. It's a transmission and power steering fluid filter. It's got an arrow for flow direction. It's got a magnet and a little filter media in there to filter the power steering fluid. There is no other filter on the system, or most power steering systems, so it's can't hurt. And again, it's on the return line. You don't want it on the high pressure supply line. So fill up the reservoir to the upper limit, And everywhere I've read, you only want to use Honda power steering fluid. They're real particular about their fluids in general, and especially the power steering fluid apparently. So the best way to do this flush is when you're flushing the system is to have 3 guys. One guy at the steering wheel, actually disconnect the fuel pump relay, so you're just starting the engine, cranking it without actually starting it, so you can control the flow better. Have another guy filling up the reservoir with power steering fluid, and then have another guy controlling the output waste oil, because you don't want to run these pumps dry, and you want to turn the steering wheel from left to right to get all the fluid out while somebody's filling up the reservoir. So hopefully that helps you.